Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Obviously, some massive news last night. Alex Grinch out as USC's defensive coordinator, hopped on and kind of gave some instant reaction and broad takeaways. Now I kind of want to dive into some potential USC defensive coordinator candidates that Lincoln Riley and this USC program could pursue this offseason. Really excited to get into this one. It's probably not going to be the only candidate breakdown we have. I was on a flight this morning, started just jotting down some names that I thought would make sense for this USC job, a laundry list of guys. And I think the biggest takeaway is USC needs to nail this hire. And if they do nail it, like the ceiling of this USC program gets so much higher. Like Lincoln Riley or not, he's going to have a good offense as long as he's the head coach at USC. Now it is, can you get a defensive coordinator that can get this USC defense back to where it belongs in terms of that play style, in terms of that physicality? A massive opportunity for Lincoln Riley to really right the ship for this USC program and unlock an extremely high potential of this program. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys, and especially the USC fans. You guys have shown a ton of support to the boys. I was extremely high on this USC team. We talked a ton of USC football. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear your top candidate hires down in the comment section below. I broke out the PowerPoint for this one, and I don't normally do that. That's how serious I am about USC getting this hire right. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with my number one candidate. And this one is, you're not even sure how feasible it is, but that's the defensive coordinator at Penn State, Manny Diaz. And you talk about the boxes that you want these USC defensive coordinator candidates to check. The couple of boxes that I have written down: one, you want to have an elite track record, right? You're hiring a guy that's a proven defensive coordinator, defensive play caller at another Power 5 school. This is one of the biggest brands in college football. They have the money to go and shell out and get one of the best defensive minds in the country. They should leave no stone unturned. And if that means going out and poaching Penn State's defensive coordinator, I think that's exactly what USC should do. And what appeals to me the most about Manny Diaz is not only is the track record phenomenal, he has the number one defense in the country in terms of yards per play, top 5 in scoring defense. He's also an elite recruiter. So you're combining a scheme that is successful in the Big Ten, the conference that USC is going to, combined with the elite recruiter. I mean, when he was the head coach at Miami, he was bringing in a ton of talent to that program, was the lead recruiter on a ton of talent that has come to Penn State and has come to Miami. So he has that recruiting background. He has an elite background in player development. There's going to be 6-7 guys on that Penn State defense that are going to go in the NFL draft. He kind of checks all the boxes, right? Elite from a schematic standpoint, proven track record with elite defenses at Miami and at Penn State. He's an elite recruiter. That's going to be a big, in my opinion, that can't get overlooked. Is the defensive coordinator USC wants to get needs to be able to attract top-end talent from across the country. Manny Diaz checks that box. So he's an elite recruiter, elite developer, elite play caller. Those are the 3 boxes that you want to see checked for this USC defensive coordinator. And I think Manny Diaz, quite frankly, checks all of those boxes. The next guy I have on the list, and probably the most popular guy amongst the USC fans, is Jim Leonard. And he'd be my second choice. I think Jim Leonard, and he's more gettable, right? I mean, right now he is a senior analyst at Illinois. He's going to be the hottest commodity in terms of defensive coordinators on the market this year. What he did at Wisconsin was absolutely elite in terms of player development, in terms of the scheme and play calling. Those Wisconsin defenses were always extremely physical, extremely well coached, and extremely developed. I mean, they took a lot of guys who were 3-star dudes coming out of high school and put him into the NFL. So you know he's an elite developer. You know he's an elite defensive mind from a schematic standpoint, and he has well-coached defenses. Those are, quite frankly, everything Alex Grinch really wasn't at USC. Now, the one question with Jim Leonard that has me just a little bit more tentative about it is, can he recruit at that top level? If you're going to go to USC, you need to be on the recruiting trail, attracting top-end talent. At Wisconsin, he wasn't necessarily a bad recruiter. That's kind of a hard program to attract top 5-star talent, but he wasn't necessarily an elite recruiter as well. Really good schematics, really good developer of talent. Can he recruit at that level for USC? That's a question. And if he can, and again, Lincoln Riley can do a lot of that. You have a really good position coaches that can do that as well. But you want your defensive coordinator having a track record of attracting elite talent as well. That would probably be my only question mark about Jim Leonard, but a phenomenal candidate for this USC job. The next guy, and someone said this in the comment section last night, really, really agreed with it, was a guy that kind of came to my mind as well, Lynn, the current defensive coordinator for UCLA right now. It's his first year. So the one knock on Lynn is the track record isn't necessarily long, right? This is his first year being a play caller at the college football level. But what do you like about him? In that first year for UCLA, he has completely changed not only the performance of the defense, right? Points per game, sacks, third down defense, really top marks for this UCLA group. But more importantly, he has that NFL background. I mean, coming from the Baltimore Ravens, Houston Texans, he's been in NFL locker rooms. That attracts a lot of talent. Like if you are a high school kid and you want to go to the NFL, you're going to want to go play for a coach who has a background in the NFL. I think Lynn is that kind of guy. And I mean, one of the other question marks you have is how is he on the recruiting trail? That's a good question to have. But what Lynn has done for this UCLA team, I think I want to see at USC in terms of changing the culture of that UCLA defense. That was not a UCLA defense the last couple of years was not a unit where you're like, that's a physical, flying around, going and getting the football kind of defense. That's what you want at USC. That is what Lynn in 1 year has brought to UCLA, and he's right down the road. This one would make a lot of sense if USC can go to Lynn and say, hey, this is a bigger program with a bigger opportunity. What do you say you try this at USC? It's going to be a lot easier to get that talent coming to USC than it is UCLA. Lynn, I think, would be a phenomenal hire. And then the last one, a little bit off the beaten path, but a couple things I like about Tony White. One, extremely proven track record, right? Elite defense at Syracuse with a lot lesser talent. In 1 year at Nebraska, again, completely has overhauled this defense. This is a guy that's known for his attention to detail, the physicality and culture he's implemented at Nebraska, and he's an elite scheme guy. Like we talk a lot of Nebraska football. The 3-3-5 scheme that Tony White has implemented at Nebraska, it's happened quickly and it's happened at a very high level. I mean, this Nebraska defense, watching them this year versus last year, they're a top 5 unit against the run this year, top 20 in scoring defense. He's done wonders for this Nebraska defense, not only from a player development standpoint, from a culture standpoint, and he's got a proven track record. And he has that experience in the Big Ten at Nebraska. So you kind of look at some of the boxes you want to check for these defensive coordinators. Big Ten experience, elite track record. Tony White has that kind of record. I think Tony White would be another phenomenal hire. So those are the 4. Again, the reason I want to go back to Manny Diaz, and I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators across the country. And I think at USC, it's a really attractive place to be a defensive coordinator because you don't need to have the best defense in the country. Penn State, if they had USC's offense on the opposite side, would probably win a national title. So your defensive coordinator looking at a spot to land, the expectations are high. Don't get me wrong. Like the new defensive coordinator, you got to have high expectations for this guy. You're going to pay him a lot of money. That being said, it gives you a little bit more leeway. I mean, at Penn State, he needs to be perfect because that Penn State offense is not great. As long as Lincoln Riley's at USC, this offense is going to be really, really good for USC. That's what makes this such an important hire. Like the ceiling for this USC program, if they nail the defensive coordinator hire, is going to be so high. Manny Diaz, Jim Leonard, Lynn, Tony White, 4 of the guys that really stood out to me. We'll probably do another one of these with another group of candidates that I think would be really good for USC. Cannot wait to see where Lincoln Riley goes with this one. Again, I'm really excited. I know a lot of the USC fans are really excited. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, your top hires for USC's opening defensive coordinator job. Appreciate y'all rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.